I just finished watching The Sea Beast on Netflix with my 6-year-old boy, who loved the film. And it was pretty woke, but it was really interesting. And I was thinking about it, like I was really working not to react to it and give it a chance. And, it's really interesting because I'm only anti-woke in the simplistic political sense. Like, I just don't think true enlightenment is something that you can politicize about. Like the Puritans tried to do this in England with the Glorious Revolution. It's just, I think at the level of mass culture, it's just better to have excellence as your highest value than any sort of moral purity ideal, because it's just more scientific and less gameable. It doesn't require constant checking of everyone's souls. So I just want to say that straight up. Probably the stupidest line in the movie was like, you can be a hero and still be wrong. But it's interesting because I think there's a sense in which it means something. Like, but I mean, it is kind of stupid because if you're really a hero, then you're not wrong, right? You're the one who stands and takes the hard action when everyone else is running. Metaphorically or literally. But I think people have forgotten that the original heroes are pretty much psychopaths. Like, and I'm talking about, really old heroes. Like the original shining hero is, things like Hercules and well, actually, I suppose Achilles is a better example. And there's something to this, right? Like, it's the hero at that old level is in a sense, they take a certain sacrifice, like the artist, like what they do is good for the group. But just like the true artist who's channeling something that they barely understand, the really epic hero, like shining masculine warrior glory kind of thing, also, it's not a life that, that's particularly pleasant or decent, comfortable. And in this sense, I can see that the hero can be wrong. This is how I'm being generous. But you see, the sense in which I think the sort of woke ideals in this film are okay. I mean, it's got the usual thing that the object of agency is a young black girl and a black woman, and the white men just have to learn their lessons, and they're often humiliated, and they're objects of fun or villainy. But there is some sense in which this is not inappropriate. The balance is in how you do it, and I can see how you can be a hero and still be wrong, is a genuine attempt by the writers to try to acknowledge all realities, to try to change direction without vilifying the previous authority. And because civilization itself has become a greater threat to us than any natural phenomena, like we are at this point a really advanced society, I mean, all the really large-scale threats are pretty much by our own hand, right? It's our own power itself. I would even go so far as to say that we have vanquished all the old demons with tech, superstition, at least for the, comfortably off, disease and predators and everything. But we have real demons now. Like, we have algorithms that are just getting more and more intelligent, literally steering us to sort of inhuman ends. You know, just to serve pure appetite itself. You know, which is something, you know, genuinely demonic. And civilization has a golden light in it. It's not evil, and I don't believe enlightenment is actually possible without it. But it's very difficult to put your finger on that, and it's very easy to see that objectively all civilization does is amplify power. And it's out of control. At some level, it's totally out of control. And because, you know, the values of the Enlightenment are not actually, don't belong to any culture, truly. You know, liberalism, authoritarianism, you know, these get marked with certain cultural, like, with certain races and certain cultures, but that's just a historical thing, right? It's just one civilization passes the baton to the next. The idea of liberalism or authority or of enlightenment or indifference, like, these are just human values, animal values even. You know, it's just, they're just like batons that get passed. And in the times we live, and in recent history, it's white people. Particularly Anglo and Anglo-American now civilization that, you know, the English-led industrialization. And, you know, everybody's following the white man, right? Like, even though he doesn't know where he's going and he's in a great hurry to get there. And for all the criticism there is of, in the culture and discourse of you know, what the white man represents, the whole world is still falling over itself to follow his ways. And so the black woman in the popular imagination naturally represents an antithetical personification, right? Like, you know, it goes back to Africa and our natural origins. And just as in broad symbolism, man represents culture, so woman represents nature. And to have a little girl doing it also makes sense, because just like children know nothing, so too they're often the ones who are not blinded by culture. So I felt some political reactions. I mean, I got slightly triggered watching it, but it had such good reviews. I persevered, and I just was like, check yourself. And, you know, there's a clumsiness to it. I'm not going to say this film is fantastic, because there is this awkward cultural politics at work. And there's many themes that I'm not going to go into there. Like, I can imagine all the things being said and written about this film. But I just thought I'd use it. Just after watching it, I had a few ideas going around in my head, and I was thinking, because I'm trying to, like, find the balance between things, you know, because wokeness, true wokeness in the sense of an enlightenment, in the sense of being truly awake and not asleep, is just really good. And the more people we have who are awake, the better. But it's just that when you try to make it, enforce it, when you try to actually police everything and make everybody act like that, it's just insane. And so I'm very suspicious of woke politics generally. But films like this are okay, in my opinion. Like, and it was much better than Buzz Lightyear, which was just very confused and was grinding on old stories, and none of it really fit symbolically. Like, you know, this is the film that he watched when he was a boy. Like, I don't know. They all just felt like, yeah, sure. Keep grinding, Pixar, Disney. Make some money off your IP. But this was a new story. It was made up. It's riffing on old archetypes. It was very beautiful, very beautiful. A lot of pink. And I know it's going to really trigger a lot of anti-woke people. But I think it's all right. I don't think it's worth hating. And I had no problem with my son watching it. Because there is some sense, in which, well, I actually just think women have always ruled. I don't, I'm not interested in feminism. I'm interested in femininity and women. I'm not interested in environmentalism. I'm interested in ecology and nature. I'm quite hostile to politics at the moment. I feel like it mostly just brainjacks people. But I don't know how politics is in everything in the end, and it's not like I can say there's no need for politics, because it's just another aspect of war, in a way. And I'm just waffling now. But yeah, I don't know how we're going to work it out, and I fear everything's going to get worse before it gets better, but there's just something about optimism in these children's films and their sentiment that's okay. Like, it's much more sane to believe in a hopeless dream or an almost impossible dream that's beautiful than to see reality as cold, material certainty. Because it's brutal life. And it eats us all alive in the end, and there's more suffering than happiness, that's for sure, for most people. But it's even worse if you don't have some faith and some gratitude and some optimism. Like, faith is destiny, it's strange. And children have to watch happy stories, because what you believe tends to come true. And so I just wanted to try to help what's not naive in woke, what's good in woke. I want to raise that up. Because my marriage and my son taught me that you can't do good easily by fighting evil. Not unless evil's at your door, right? And you've got no choice. It's much, much safer and much better to just do what you love and create what's good than to fight what's bad. This is why the heroes and the psychopath role goes together to some extent, I think, because in the traditional sense of the hero, which these movies are about, it's a horrible thing to have to do, to have to be a hero. And the hero, in a sense, is just a good psychopath fighting a bad psychopath, in some sense, in this classical archetypal story. And I hope this speaks to even a couple of people, because it's really important, and I'll get my shit together, because I do feel like I have a responsibility to make more and more sense. But I make no promises to anyone on YouTube. Like, my son, everything's way more important. But yeah, if things go all right, I'll get a bit more. I'll stop wearing this ripped up singlet. I'll get a mic. I'll get a bit more presentable, because obviously people take you more seriously if you look better. Anyway, good luck out there.